What is up, responsible day traders? Today is Sunday, June 12th, 2022. I'm Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading. So, welcome to the madness. Things got a little crazy last week. And also, if you haven't rolled over your contracts, make sure you do that. Things will start slowing down on that June contract really, really quick. And if you're in something like You Profit Trader, Monday is the day. You must switch. You always want to be trading the contract that has the highest volume, and that is going to be the September contract starting today. So if you haven't made that switch over, it's pretty easy. Usually it just tells you to make the switch for NinjaTrader. And then if you go ahead and make the switch, you can switch back and forth very easily. So it's not a big deal. Very, very easily done. All right, so let's talk about this market. Whew, man. So it's done exactly what we expected. It pulled up to that EMA on the daily chart and just held there for a couple of days. And now has given us a very strong move to the downside. You know, I do see that we pulled back quite a bit, but it's okay. I don't think that we're still in trouble of going just all the way to the downs, but it's okay. We have a lot going on, and we have an area that we could possibly reach down around 3,300, and we'll look at that very, very soon. So the first thing we want to do, as usual, is check out that news. All right, so let's go over to responsibledaytrading.com, drop down the news, and go to market news. So let's see what we got. I haven't even looked at it. Woo, we got a lot going on this week. Nothing on Monday. Tuesday, we have pre-market. Wednesday may be a little bit of a wild ride. We have some pre-market, we have crude oil inventories, an hour after market opens, and then we have FOMC at 1 o'clock Central Time. So that could just get wild, okay? So especially with the way things are right now, it may be an interesting day. You know, I don't normally say to stay out during news, but when FOMC is here, usually about 15, 20 minutes, maybe even up to 30 minutes before it comes out, things start to slow down. So I usually back out around then. Then when it goes off, man, it goes wild sometimes. So just to be safe, if you're not super comfortable with your ability to manage that, then you want to pay attention to that and step out. Just be responsible about it, okay? So continuing on, Thursday, we have pre-market. Friday, pre-market as well. So Wednesday may just be a humdinger, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and check out the market. First, you're gonna see right here, this chart, we have the daily chart. And I've added a line down here, and let me take this off. I've added a line down here, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So what I wanna look at right now is what's happening at this very moment. I mean, you can look over at my 233 and see this big gap that happened overnight. So we want to just be aware of that. A lot of times that gap looks to get closed. Now, we have had a very strong move to the downside in the MACDs. The only thing that happened, and this was anticipated, is because it held out here for so long, what happened was the MACDs they can't catch up with this kind of movement. When these bars started making really, really long bars, the MACDs are working hard to get down there, but they're pulling up towards right here, the bottom Bollinger Band, or I guess they're pulling down towards the bottom Bollinger Band. So this already has the looks of divergence. So we have divergence when the price and the MACDs don't agree. Typically what we want to see is we want to see it equal that previous pivot area, which it's done here, and the MACDs are leading much higher. So we definitely have some divergence going on here. Now, will this divergence stick? I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me clear this up. We actually have potential for divergence. Potential for divergence happens when we see this setup. Then we're going to see if the MACDs are going to continue pushing down and equal that previous pivot. Once they equal the previous pivot, we no longer have divergence because the price and the MACDs are agreeing at that time. So what I do anticipate here is this. I anticipate this to bounce back up off of here, reach up towards that zero line, and really possibly move us back down a little bit further to continue with this movement to the downside. Now, when we're looking at this, and I want to pull this back up and look at this line that we've drawn here, this line is right here around 3,300. Now you can see right here where we had our high that happened in February of 2020, right before things got crazy with COVID. And then we had this big drop to the downside. So if we start moving with some significance, and if this scenario does happen, I'm going to expect the market to really make a beeline down to this area. We may have a little bit of a holdup right in here where we have resistance as well, but this is our major area where we held up, came back to it, and pulled back into that area. So just something to keep in mind that if this does really still pick up the pace, here's a really great area to look for maybe some support to start moving this market back to the upside. All right, let's go ahead and look at the 28,657, which is our next biggest chart. On the 28,657, what we're seeing, now you can see that gap. You can see where it dropped and we've got a little bit of a space between the price. And like I said, it typically gets closed, so we may see that happen. Now, the EMAs are just smoking to the downside. They're wide, they're spread apart. That tells us a lot of strength. So we also have divergence potential going on here, and we'll go through that again and just look at this. We have the price leading lower, MACDs leading higher. Remember, if they come down and equal that previous pivot point, then we no longer have divergence. But while they have that difference between them, where the price is leading much lower and the MACDs aren't, that's a sign that we have the ability for this to push back up a little bit. Now, these MACDs, and like we saw on the daily chart, are strong. They have a gap between the previous BB, which shows us strength and momentum. So we may see this come down a little bit further, hit that bottom Bollinger Band, push back up, and then come and greet the EMAs as they pull down further and move more to the downside. But, if that push is strong enough to push it back up, maybe get us inside the EMAs or higher. Our last major pivot was here. We do have one right in here, but this was our last major area that really just couldn't hold that move to the upside. It was trying, and they said, nope, we're going down. We could read that through what was happening in the MACDs with the divergence that's happening here and the retracement divergence that's happening here. We can see where the MACDs just rolled off of the Bollinger Band right in this area. It told us more down. So it's very telling of what we're seeing in the MACDs. We can really read that and know what to look for. So let's go ahead and look at our trading charts. Now let's remember the 10,946 is more of our overall, where are we looking for the bigger target? Our 1597 is where we're going to use for our setups. We're going to be looking for the action to happen here. Then we're going to take the 233 so we can have much lower risk on these trades when we get in. This is how we're able to have something like 1.5, 2 point risk as the market is moving. We're able to move over here and see the smaller movement and stay in tune with it. So you can see this gap pretty significantly here as we're looking at these smaller charts. Obviously right now, the direction is down. We have EMAs opened up to the downside on all charts with strength. We have price pushing down. We still have MACDs pushing down. I mean, look at the strength of these MACDs right now. There's a lot of space between these dots. There are 5,000 ticks left, and this BB can pull back up in those 5,000 ticks, but it doesn't look super likely. So we may see this push down just a little bit more and then start to slow down, maybe create some more white BBs as we come down a little bit further. Typically, as we'd seen before, we're making more extreme pivots in the MACDs than we had previously. So I'm going to go ahead and put a line here because I don't have one there, right? Because we don't normally go down this low in the MACDs. So we're not far off from this area, and we can see we might even make it down there to that next area in the MACDs, but these are extreme areas, which means typically we're going to see a bounce back to the upside from them. So once again, the direction down, the immediate, the overall down. Is it coming to an end? We're seeing possibilities of it, but you're not going to want to try and turn the market on your own. And if you decide to take a long trade, be very aware of slowdowns to push the market back down. So folks, that's going to wrap it up. I mean, there's a lot of great, interesting things going. We've got FOMC coming up. We've had contract rollover. So there's a lot that can really get this market moving. And it's pretty exciting, really, because that means a lot of opportunities. And that's what gives us the ability to day trade, right? Just seeing that difference, that move, and being able to pay attention to where the exit should happen so we can maybe catch 2 points or maybe catch 20, just depending on the strength of the move once we get into it, right? So guys, don't forget to roll those contracts over. Also, if you haven't check out the new website for You Profit Trader. We do have a discount going on right now. It is a 40% discount using the code June40. So check that out, guys. We do have some openings with responsible day trading. We have some students who have cycled through, and we like to be limited on the amount of students we take on because we want to make sure that we can spend the time and energy with each of those students. And we've actually had a few students coming back that took a long hiatus over the COVID break. So as they're coming back, we're making space for them as well because, once you're here with us, if you leave for 5 years and you come back and you're like, Lindsay, I'm still interested. I still want to do this. I'm still going to be there for you because that is what we're committed to here at Responsible Day Trading. All right, guys, that's it. That's all she wrote. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. If you've got questions, please reach out to us. And as always, you know that I look forward to catching you on the profitable side.